The dim glow of candlelight flickered against the cold stone walls of the convent, casting long, wavering shadows across the modest room. Outside, the distant tolling of church bells echoed through the silent corridors, marking the passing of time. It was a quiet night, yet something in the air felt different, charged, expectant, as if the heavens themselves were holding their breath. Sister Maria lay motionless on her simple wooden cot, her frail hands clutching a worn rosary, its beads polished smooth from decades of prayer. Her breath was shallow, her strength all but spent. She had served God faithfully for over 60 years, dedicating her life to prayer, charity, and devotion. Now, as she hovered on the threshold between life and death, a deep peace filled her heart. She had no fear, only the certainty that soon she would stand before the Lord she had loved so deeply. Yet, as her eyes fluttered closed, a strange sensation washed over her. The air grew impossibly still, and time itself seemed to slow. A gentle warmth enveloped her, unlike anything she had ever felt. A presence, vast and powerful, yet filled with love beyond comprehension. Then it happened. A brilliant light, purer than the morning sun, flooded the room. It was not the feeble glow of candles, nor the cold luminescence of the moon. It was something else entirely. The walls, the ceiling, even the very ground beneath her seemed to fade away as the radiance engulfed her. Maria felt weightless. The pain in her body was gone. The weariness of old age had vanished. She was no longer lying in her bed. She was standing. Somewhere else, somewhere beyond the limits of the world she had known. And then she saw him. At the center of the blinding light stood a figure, clothed in white, his presence so overwhelming that Maria felt her knees buckle beneath her. She fell to the ground, tears streaming down her face, as an undeniable truth filled her soul. It was him. It was Christ. With a voice like the rushing of many waters, strong yet gentle, mighty yet tender, he spoke. Maria, you have been faithful, but I have brought you here for a reason. You must see what is to come. At his words, the light around them shifted, the radiance dimmed, revealing a vision, a glimpse into the future. And what Maria saw next made her blood run cold. Maria trembled in the presence of the Lord. Though her heart overflowed with love and awe, an unshakable weight pressed upon her soul. She had spent her life in prayer, longing for the moment she would stand before Christ. But now, standing in his divine presence, she felt something she did not expect: urgency. Jesus' eyes, filled with both sorrow and fierce determination, met hers. They held eternity within them. Deep, knowing, filled with the wisdom of all time. And yet, Maria saw grief in his gaze. A sorrow so profound, it made her chest tighten. "Maria, my beloved servant," he spoke, his voice both gentle and unyielding. "You have been faithful in small things, and now I will show you what must come to pass. The days ahead will test the hearts of men, and many will falter. What I reveal to you now is not to bring fear, but to awaken those who are sleeping. The time is near." As he stretched out his hand, the brilliant light around them began to shift. The warmth of his presence remained, but the world around Maria transformed. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing a reality hidden from human eyes. She saw the earth below, its cities, its people, but something was terribly wrong. The world was darker, heavier. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the land, and an oppressive silence filled the air. It was not the silence of peace, but of something waiting, something dreadful. Then the vision unfolded. The date, February 25th, 2025, loomed before her like an unshakable pillar in time. And as the days following it played out before her eyes, she saw the beginning of great turmoil. Churches stood empty, their doors locked, their altars abandoned. A great deception had swept across the world, and those who once proclaimed faith now cowered in fear or embraced the lies of the age. The name of Christ was mocked, not in hidden corners, but openly, boldly. Laws were passed, stripping away the last defenses of the faithful. Those who stood firm in their belief were labeled as dangerous, intolerant, unfit for society. Maria gasped as she saw faithful men and women dragged from their homes, accused not of crimes, but of refusing to deny Christ. Banks froze accounts, employers terminated workers, families were torn apart, all because they refused to compromise their faith. "The time of sifting has come," Jesus said, his voice filled with both sorrow and unshakable resolve. "Many who claim to follow me will fall away. Their faith was built on comfort, not on truth. When the fire comes, only the pure will remain, but those who endure, they will see my glory." Maria's heart ached as she witnessed the suffering of believers, isolated, persecuted, betrayed. But then, amid the darkness, she saw something else. A remnant, scattered yet unbroken, hidden yet ablaze with faith. In homes, in secret places, even in prisons, they gathered, not in fear, but in unwavering devotion. Their voices rose in worship, their prayers igniting like fire in the night, and in their midst the presence of God was tangible, undeniable. Miracles unfolded before Maria's eyes, provisions appearing where there was none, chains breaking, impossible healings taking place. "They will try to silence my name," Jesus declared, "but my people will not be silenced. They will see my power as never before. Just as I was with Daniel in the lion's den, with Shadrach in the fire, with Paul in the prison, so I will be with them. The world will know that I am." Maria felt her soul tremble as she beheld both the suffering and the supernatural glory of the days ahead. The weight of the vision pressed upon her, but in the depths of her spirit, a fire was kindled, a certainty that no force on earth could extinguish. Then Jesus turned to her once more. His face, radiant and unshaken, held the final words she knew she must never forget. "Warn them, Maria. Tell them to wake up. The time is shorter than they think. Let those who have ears to hear, hear. Let those who are mine stand firm, for I am coming soon." Maria's soul trembled as the vision continued. She saw not just persecution, but something even more painful: betrayal. The collapse of faith did not come only from the hands of the world, but from within the church itself. She watched as pastors, once bold in their preaching, now stood before their congregations and spoke with cautious, diluted words. They avoided the name of Christ, replacing it with messages of tolerance, unity, and self-empowerment. They spoke of love, but abandoned truth. They called for peace, but rejected the cross. "They have exchanged my gospel for one that pleases men," Jesus said. Sorrow thick in his voice. "They do not serve me, they serve the world." Maria saw churches once filled with worship now turned into empty shells. Some were repurposed into community centers, art exhibits, and places of interfaith gatherings where all beliefs were welcomed. Except one, Christianity, once the foundation of nations, had become a relic of the past. Those who still clung to it were labeled as dangerous, backward, and filled with hate. Then came the greatest wound of all. She saw believers, men and women who had once professed their love for Christ, turning against their own brothers and sisters, some out of fear, others out of deception. They reported underground gatherings, they handed over pastors, friends, even family members to authorities. "The love of many will grow cold," Jesus whispered, his words echoing the prophecy of Matthew 24:12. Maria's heart ached as she saw parents separated from their children, siblings divided, lifelong friendships shattered. The cost of faith was no longer just social rejection, it was exile, imprisonment, even death. And yet, in the midst of it all, the most painful sight was not the world's hatred, but the betrayal from within. "Many who once called me Lord will deny me," Jesus continued. "They will believe they are doing what is right. They will justify their actions, saying they are protecting peace, preventing division. But they have sold their souls for comfort and security. They are not of me." Maria saw government officials standing at podiums, assuring the world that this was not persecution but progress. They claimed that those who resisted were not true Christians, but extremists clinging to outdated beliefs. And shockingly, even some church leaders stood beside them, nodding in agreement. "These are the wolves in sheep's clothing," Jesus said. "They have chosen the approval of men over the kingdom of God. And when the storm comes, their foundations will crumble." Maria wanted to look away, but the vision continued. She saw those who remained faithful forced into hiding, living as exiles in their own lands. The world called them outcasts, but in the eyes of heaven, they were the chosen ones. Their faith was not built on comfort or acceptance, but on the unshakable truth of Christ. Then Jesus spoke again, his voice carrying both warning and promise. "Tell them, Maria, tell my people, that the time of testing has come. The separation is happening. Many will fall away, but those who endure will see my power. They will witness miracles the world cannot explain. They will walk through fire and not be burned. They will be rejected, but I will never leave them. And soon, very soon, they will see my face." Maria felt the weight of these words settle deep in her spirit. She knew that when she returned, she could not remain silent. The days of casual faith were over. A choice had to be made. And for those who remained faithful, the true church, though small, though hunted, though cast aside, would shine brighter than ever before. Maria's vision did not end in despair. Though she had seen betrayal, persecution, and the collapse of faith, Jesus now turned her gaze to those who refused to bow. A remnant, a people set apart, the last flame of unwavering devotion in a darkened world. She saw them scattered across nations, small gatherings in hidden places. They did not meet in grand cathedrals or towering churches, but in basements, forests, and abandoned buildings. Their voices were hushed, their gatherings secret, yet their faith burned brighter than ever. "These are my true disciples," Jesus said. "They do not follow me for comfort or recognition. They do not seek the approval of men. Their faith is costly, yet they do not waver." Maria saw them kneeling on cold floors, hands lifted in worship, their whispers carrying the power of heaven. They had no elaborate sermons, no professional choirs, just the raw, unshaken presence of God among them, and though the world despised them, they were not afraid. She saw a young man reading from a tattered Bible, his voice steady as he encouraged those around him. A woman once wealthy, now stripped of everything, praying over the sick and watching as they were healed. An elderly man, imprisoned for his faith, singing praises in the darkness of his cell. "They will call them outlaws, extremists, threats to society," Jesus continued, "but they are my chosen ones, and through them, my power will be revealed." Then, Maria saw miracles, undeniable, supernatural acts of God. She watched as believers, hunted and pursued, walked unharmed through dangerous places. Food appeared where none should exist, chains fell from wrists, walls shook at their prayers, the sick were healed, the broken were restored. "Just as I walked with Daniel in the lion's den, just as I stood with my servants in the fire, I will be with them," Jesus declared. "The world will seek to silence them, but they will not be silent. My spirit will be upon them, and no force of darkness will prevail against them." Maria's heart swelled with hope. Though the world rejected them, though governments sought to erase them, they were never alone. Then she saw something even more powerful, those who once wavered now returning. Some who had denied Christ in fear, some who had compromised to save themselves, were now awakening. They saw the deception for what it was. They realized they had been blinded by the comforts of this world. And with tears in their eyes, they repented. "The lost will come home," Jesus said, "and though they were weak, I will make them strong, for I am not finished. My gospel will be preached, my people will endure, and my return is near." Maria felt a deep urgency in her spirit. "Tell them," Jesus said, looking at her, "tell them to stand firm, to be unshaken, to refuse the lies of this world, for those who endure to the end will see my glory, and soon, very soon, they will see me face to face." And then, just like that, the vision ended. Maria felt herself being pulled back into her earthly body. The coldness of death faded, and the warmth of life returned. Her eyes opened, She was alive. Tears streamed down her face as she gasped for breath. She had seen what was coming. She had heard the voice of the Lord, and she knew. There was no time left for hesitation. The fire of faith must burn, no matter the cost. As Maria gasped for breath, still trembling from the vision, Jesus spoke one final time. His voice was not filled with fear, but with power, an urgent call for those who had ears to hear. "Tell them," he said, "tell my people that the time of casual faith is over. The days ahead will demand a faith that is unshakable. Many will fall away, but those who remain in me will see my glory." Maria saw flashes of what was to come. Cities in chaos, churches abandoned, a world that no longer tolerated the name of Christ. She saw believers stripped of their rights, branded as threats to society. The Bible was mocked, twisted, outlawed. Many who once called themselves Christians denied their faith to escape persecution. They will say, "Where is your God?" They will mock, "If he is real, why does he not save you?" And in that moment, my true followers will be revealed, Jesus warned. Not those who speak my name for status, but those who know me in spirit and in truth. Maria's heart ached. How will they endure, she thought. As if hearing her very soul, Jesus answered, "They must prepare now. If they wait until the fire comes, it will be too late. Their faith must be rooted, their hearts steadfast. They must know my voice so clearly that no deception can lead them astray." Maria saw what this preparation looked like, not in grand displays, but in the simple, hidden devotion of the faithful. Families gathering in secret, studying the word with urgency, knowing that one day they might not have access to it. Believers praying not just for blessings, but for the strength to stand firm when the world turned against them. The church, not defined by buildings or denominations, but by those whose hearts truly belong to Christ. A generation rising, not the wealthiest, not the most powerful, but the most devoted, willing to lose everything rather than deny their Savior. "Tell them," Jesus said again, "that to stand in the days ahead, they must let go of everything that is not of me. The love of money will fail them, the pursuit of comfort will deceive them, the desire to be accepted by the world will destroy them. Only those who cling to me, above all else, will endure." Maria saw a line being drawn, a separation between those who were truly his and those who only followed when it was easy. No more lukewarm faith, no more middle ground. "Warn them," Jesus continued. "False voices will rise, twisting my words to fit the desires of the world. Many will believe they are still following me when they have already been led astray. The only way to recognize deception is to know my truth." Maria felt the weight of his words. She knew the time of warnings was ending. Now was the time to act. "Let them prepare, not in fear, but in faith," Jesus said. "For though the world will shake, my kingdom will not. And those who stand firm will see what the prophets longed to see. They will witness my power. They will know my presence in ways they never imagined. And soon, very soon, they will see me coming in glory." Maria's spirit burned with urgency. This was not a time to wait. This was not a time to hesitate. The battle for souls had begun, and the only question that remained was, who would stand? Maria's vision faded, and she felt herself slipping back into the reality of her final moments. The presence of Christ still surrounded her, but she knew her time on this earth was ending. The weight of his words burned in her soul. A final mission, a last warning. This was not just a message for her, it was a message for you. If you are hearing this, it is not by accident. The days ahead will test every believer. The comfort and security of the past will vanish, and only those who are truly anchored in Christ will remain standing. Jesus was clear. The time of casual faith is over. The world is changing rapidly. Darkness is increasing. Persecution is no longer something distant. It is at the door. Many will fall away, not because they stopped believing in God, but because they never truly knew Him. They followed a faith of convenience, not conviction. The question now is, where do you stand? Will you be among those who compromise when faith becomes costly? Or will you be counted among those who stand firm, no matter the price? This is not a time to wait, not a time to hesitate. The line has been drawn. The Bible warns that even the elect could be deceived, Matthew 24:24. That deception will not look like evil. It will sound reasonable, feel comfortable, and seem loving. It will use half-truths to lure many away from Christ. Will you recognize it when it comes? If your faith is not deeply rooted, you will not endure. If you do not know God's voice, you will be led astray. If you do not study His word for yourself, you will believe the lies. If you are still chasing the things of this world, you will not be ready when they crumble. You must prepare now. Not tomorrow, now. Maria's final vision was clear. This is your moment to choose. Will you be among those who stand in the fire? Or will you be one of the many who fall away? The days of pretending are over. The time for true faith has come. Choose now. And if you have heard this warning, do not keep it to yourself. Share it, speak it, call others to prepare, because the time is short. And soon, every single one of us will have to answer one question. Did I stand for Christ, or did I bow to the world?